Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video, I've got some great news for you. We're talking about PSP, N64, Dreamcast, Arcade1Up, and some smartphones. Let's get started. Alright, we'll kick things off here talking about N64 emulation on PC with Simple 64. If you remember correctly, Simple 64 is the brand new name for M64P. This update is simple but good. It's version 2022.09.3, and in this version we've got some refresh rate calculation fixes, as well as a performance improvement. Now this emulator is free, it's open source, and I'll drop a link to the GitHub in the description below. I highly recommend checking it out. Next up, we're talking about PSP emulation on PC with PPSSPP. I get asked quite a bit if PPSSPP is getting updated. The latest version here is version 1.13.1 that was released back in July. However, that is the stable release. If you're into experimental versions and testing things out, being on the cutting edge of things and possibly finding things that are broken, then there are some development builds available to check out. Just head to the GitHub page, I'll leave a link in the description below. And once you're here, click on Actions, and you can see this emulator is very active. The latest release was 12 hours ago. And if you go on ahead and take a look at this page here, we can see a whole bunch of development builds, including some with some Vulkan improvements and fixes. The latest build here is for OpenXR, and that's for VR. It fixes the Sky and some GTA games. Now to download one of these experimental builds, you will need to sign into GitHub. You can see the builds right at the bottom of the page. However, if you head over to the official PPSSP page and click on Downloads, and scroll right down to the bottom, you can also pick it up from here. However, if you are picking it up from the PPSSP website, sometimes the top version is not the latest version. Right here it says it's from pull request number 15982, and if we head over to the PPSSP GitHub, 15982 is a little ways down the list. Personally though, for PPSSPP, it's in a pretty darn good state, and I do recommend sticking with the stable builds. I mean, the last one was updated in July, it's still pretty recent. Next up here, we're talking about TMNT and the Sega Dreamcast. Now, I've been sent this rumor a whole bunch of times, and a lot of people are excited about it, or at least the people who sent me the rumor are excited about it. Anyways, here the rumor is TMNT, the Cowabunga collection, is heading to the Dreamcast. As far as I know, this is not true, even though this tweet says it is. At this point in time, I can't imagine it would be profitable to not only port the game, but also manufacture it for the Sega Dreamcast. I mean, not to throw salt in the wound, but the Sega Dreamcast was kind of a failed system, even though I love it. I don't really think it would be profitable at all, and I can't see Konami doing this. Next up, we're quickly talking about Arcade1Up and MvC2. Now, Arcade1Up's Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cabinet went up for pre-order today with a whole bunch of success, a lot more success than they anticipated. Arcade1Up put out this official statement today. What can we say? The launch of pre-orders for MvC2 was a wilder ride than we anticipated, and we are truly sorry if you were left behind. The community's demand for MvC2 outnumbered our inventory, leaving many of you unable to pre-order in time. Please stay tuned as we will share more updates in the coming week. So I guess it was a pretty good day for Arcade1Up and a pretty awful day for everybody else who was trying to pre-order one of these. I'm assuming Arcade1Up is going to make a whole bunch more given this thing's early success. Next up, we're shifting over to mobile, and Qualcomm just announced the mid-range Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 and the low-end Snapdragon 4 Gen 1. The Snapdragon 6 Gen 1 is supposed to come out in 2023, and apparently here it's got 35% better GPU performance and 40% better CPU performance compared to its predecessor. The Snapdragon 4 Gen 1 will have 15% better CPU performance and 10% better GPU performance compared to its predecessor, and the 4 Gen 1 comes out this year. Now, if you're looking for the high-end version of the Snapdragon 8, well, the ASUS ROG Phone 6 is now up for pre-order, and these things are not cheap. If we take a look here, it appears that they do have a bit better of a vapor chamber. This is a horrible view. I'm going to try to get a better view for you here by scrolling down a whole bunch of times. I really don't like their website. Anyways, here they start talking about the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, 15% faster CPU and 50% faster GPU, so it will be better for emulation. And if I scroll down here just a little, man, this website's awful. If I scroll down just a little bit, they talk about the vapor chamber. This phone will run cooler, which is actually something you want to consider when you're using emulators. And the ROG Phone 6 is also compatible with the Kunai 3 gamepad. Now, I haven't checked out the Kunai 3 gamepad, so I have no idea in terms of its overall performance or how good it is. But I'm looking at it here and I'm not too sure about those L and R buttons. Other than that, I can't really say a whole lot about it. So if you are curious about learning a little bit more about the Kunai 3 gamepad, I'll leave a link in the description below. As far as I know here, it's wired via USB, and it's also got Alps joysticks, and the triggers are analog. I mean, I guess you could say it took a lot of inspiration from the Joy-Cons, and it also has back paddle buttons. And there's also a cooler for it if you didn't want to use the controller. It does have paddle buttons built into it, and apparently it will lower the surface temperature of the phone up to 25 degrees Celsius cooler. Again, I haven't tested this out and I don't know if I'm going to, but let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. And as for pre-orders, they're up on Amazon right now, and the Pro version of this phone, which is the top tier version, is going for a whopping $2,000. It's got 18 gigs of RAM, 512 gigs of onboard storage. Kind of hoping for a terabyte, but I guess 512 will have to do. And you can kind of scale things back if you want. You can get a 16 gig version of the phone. Also has 512 gigs for, well, almost half the price. This might be the way to go. And you can also scale it back even further to 12 gigs of RAM with 256 gigs of storage. As far as I know, even if you pick up the Pro version of this phone for $2,000, you don't get the controller or the cooler included, which is a bit of a bummer. Now, if ASUS isn't your thing, but Sony is, Sony's unveiling the brand new Xperia in a couple of days, and it's geared towards gaming. Admittedly, I don't know a whole lot about the release just yet. I'm curious to find out. I don't really have to wait very long. And it also appears there's shoulder buttons built into the top of the phone, so I can't wait to see that release. And last up here, this is a quick one. Google also announced the announcement date for their Pixel 7. They're going to be revealing it on October 6th, and if you're into emulation, this is probably not the phone you want to pick up, unless it's older systems like the N64 and prior. This is going to be using a Tensor chip, probably not that great with emulators like Skyline or even Aether SX2. I could be wrong, and I'm probably going to be picking up one of these phones just to check it out. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. Let me know your thoughts about anything we talked about today in the comments below, and we did talk about quite a bit. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate, save your state.